So perhaps partially because I've been dealing with the Neumann aspect of the Alfred E. Neumann Living Theater experience so extensively in the past few days, I wanted to make a new YouTube playlist titled Close Encounters of the Improvisatory Close Reading Experience. And I realized right away that this was going to be a problem because in order to make this playlist, I would have to have an example to put in the playlist, or the playlist will disappear. And you would think that I would just be able to take a note down, reminding myself to make this playlist, entitling the note Close Encounters of the Improvisatory Close Reading Experience. But the problem is, as a dysgraphic, that all of my lists all of the notebooks for the list that I have, end up looking like this, and it's really difficult to keep track. And there'll be missing pages, so I can't just go to the last page, and I'll often start with the notes in the middle of the notebook. That's one example of a notebook filled with titles and reminders. And it's not just that one. Pretty much, all of the notebooks are the same. Here's another example of notes. These are supposed to help me keep my space and time organized. You can see that there are problems with that. That's another example of a notebook. Here, here's an example of an old notebook. So I can find some, and notes for the structures of poems. So, having realized that I wouldn't be able to probably find the notes regarding my intentions for creating a new playlist, which would be called Close Encounters of the Improvisatory Close Encounters of the Improvisatory Reading Experience. I probably misstated the title in the beginning of let's see if we can put this down in writing. All right. All right, let's see. Close. All right. Let's see if that sounds good. Close Encounters of the Improvisatory Reading Experience. Or we could switch it around. Yeah, that sounds more like what I have in mind. So this is the title, or something like the title that, see now, this is titled, so we could put up titled, we put titled, there we go. I had an idea for a title, but it wasn't completely titled until now. And we're going to go ahead and save that. Oh yes, I wanted it titled. Titled. All right, so let's open titled. All right, now that's the that's pretty close to the title that I have in mind. Improvisatory Encounters of the Closed Reading Experience. And we'll copy that so that when we create the playlist, we can go ahead and put it right in. Now, so having explained that, you know, my notes on things that I need to do end up looking like this, and there is often gaps between the pages and where these notes and instructions end up. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and create an entry for that particular playlist. So to do that, I was thinking, let's go ahead and go to the YouTube page. All right. So let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. I think it's one of these. All right, here we go. All right, so if you recall, this particular image I'm using is from an interview on the Dick Cavett Show with Jimi Hendrix, and he talks about his performance of the Star Spangled Banner. and I did a close reading in a vaguely critical race theory framed manner, in which I paused the video in various opportunities to discuss what was going on in the conversation between Cavett and Hendrix, and particularly to discuss the ways in which Cavett seemed to either intentionally misread Jimi Hendrix or not get a lot of the information that Hendrix was providing. And in relationship to the discussion of the Star Spangled Banner, you know, any discussion that directly dealt with the Star Spangled Banner and the way that it's played by Hendrix at Woodstock, that directly dealt with the way that Hendrix is making a political statement. And I talked about the way that Cavett had a strategy of utilizing sort of universal and abstract terms to depoliticize the event. You know, for example, so calling it unconventional, or calling it, what were some of the other terms that he used? Referring to some of Hendrix's answers as being philosophical rather than politically pointed, and making jokes out of a lot of Hendrix wit that has a definite satirical and you know, politically satirical edge to it. So to begin this playlist that I intend to call Improvisatory Encounters of the Close Reading Experience, I think that was what the title was. Let's go ahead and check. Yeah, that's it. So to begin, the first piece for Improvisatory Encounters of the Close Reading Experience, I thought I'd go back and demonstrate that the close reading that we had done of this conversation certainly hadn't been exhausted, right? Okay, so I'm thinking of one moment in this conversation in which, as I recall it, Cavett, he uses some word like unconventional. It may not exactly be unconventional. It may be some synonym for unconventional. But he's already made a statement. If you play the Star Spangled Banner in any kind of unconventional way, you automatically get hate mail. And of course, the hate mail, there's a lot of reasons for receiving hate mail. and Cavett avoids talking about most of them. And again, sort of racially evacuates, you know, the argument so that he smooths everything out, right? Okay, so, and that includes the politics of the performance of the Star Spangled Banner. And tries to remind the audience that, you know, Hendrix did in fact serve in the army, or in the, I guess he was airborne, but did in fact serve in the military, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, so there's a moment in which he says unconventional, or whatever the word is that he uses, and then Hendrix said, I didn't think so. I thought it was beautiful. Now let me see if I can find that particular moment in this video. Now this has been slowed down to avoid the copyright infringement identification algorithm. So you'll have to put up with certain respect to the inhabitants of the earth. So even if there were aliens, you know, or weren't, you know, we wouldn't necessarily, you know, well, I'm an American, and this means something to me, and what it means to me is of such great. children were there is no way that anyone that has actually paid attention, even in the slightest way, to all of those things would not understand that this is social commentary. And Hendricks is consistently throughout the interview okay, here we are. I can tell by the applause that this is the moment I'm looking for. So let's see if we can find the whole thing. Things has to like perform this little gesture, has to come back to the comedy, and it's precisely because like of all the discomfort. Like Cabot is the one that's uncomfortable, right? Clearly, and Hendricks is consistently throughout the interview like doing the best he can, like to ease his anxieties in different ways, through humor, subtlety, these indirect references and all of this, and all of it, still involved in Cabot's like inability to come to terms with what's actually going on in the conversation. If conversations were as banal and ordinary as what Cabot pretends to make of them, they would almost be unnecessary, right? So like he only states things that are comfortable and that everyone already knows or is already part of the discourse, and it really probably isn't what happened anyway. And this is exactly what's going on again and again and again. So that's the comment about being in the 101st Airborne. So he's like trying to tone down what's going on. Hendricks asked him why he said that. Unorthodox, that's the word that he uses. I said unconventional. Unorthodox. And then Jimi Hendrix responds with the following. All right, so what else is happening there? Indeed. And what Hendricks asks is, first he makes a statement and he refutes what Cabot said. I didn't think it was unorthodox. So in other words, Cabot's already assumed the universalist position. It is unorthodox. He didn't say that I think it is. He couched the subjectivity behind whenever one does, right? So whenever one does anything with the Star-Spangled Banner that's unorthodox, but the unorthodoxy slipped in. He doesn't perceive unorthodoxy, although obviously he does, but he presents it as if it were a sort of universalized formal aspect of Hendrix's work. So Hendricks calls attention to this once again, focusing on perspective and experience, and he says, I didn't perceive it as unorthodox, or I didn't experience it as unorthodox. He says, I didn't think it was unorthodox. I thought it was beautiful. So again, this is a sort of meta-verbal reference to, and the audience applauds. It's not clear if the audience is totally getting the reference or if they just applauded to the fact that they also experienced it as beautiful. But to use the word beautiful is to evoke, if you're familiar with the Hendrix repertoire, and specifically the Jimi Hendrix Experience repertoire, is to evoke the title track of the first record, Are You Experienced, and the song, Are You Experienced? And he says, and part of the lyric material in that song is, are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? And then he says, not necessarily stoned, but beautiful. So the reference to I thought it was beautiful is also a reference to experience. Now, experience points to a refutation of Cabot's discourse in at least two different ways. First, it points to the fact that he wasn't there, he didn't experience it, he doesn't get it, he doesn't know the references, and that most of what he has to say is sort of vague and completely misses the point. And then the second way that it critiques Cavett and his approach is that by using this meta-textual sort of like intra and meta-textual referent to point to the idea of experience as the beautiful, the aestheticization of experience, it points to the idea that it's the unique experience. It's not the conventional experience, in fact, that is beautiful. So in that sense, it's sort of a metaphysical or metaphilosophical critique of Dick Cavett's perspective to begin with. And I'm certain that most of the audience misses that. But the point of doing any close reading is to pick it up. And I guess, following Jimi Hendrix, his example, one could say that the more experience that one has with anything, whether it's a text or a stone or experience itself, the better one's close readings are going to be of that particular experience. So I think that's an adequate first take for the idea of this new playlist, which, let me see, what was the title again? Improvisatory Encounters of the Close Reading Experience. So what we'll do is copy that and come back to this video once we've uploaded it into the iTunes universe. All right, as I explained, we're in the process of creating a new movie whose title, once again, we kept a file so that we wouldn't forget the new title, which is this, Improvisatory Encounters of the Close Reading Experience. And I had copied this to paste in as our new title. Let's see. We're going to copy it once again, just to emphasize this is how it's done, and then we can go ahead and close that. We shouldn't need this anymore. I won't throw it away, but I'll put this text, since it's a text, in the text folder. All right, and it's also an image, so it could have gone in the image folder, but let's not get into all of that now. I haven't viewed this yet, but I assume that it works. Let's go ahead and check it. So perhaps partially because I've been dealing with the Neumann aspect of the Alfred E.E. Neumann Living Theater experience so extensively in the past few days. All right, so that looks like it works pretty well. So we can go ahead and close that. And now we'll add the title here. All right. And then we can do the next step here. So to create the new playlist, we're gonna start by uploading the video. All right. Now, the thing is, all right. So let's go down to what our main purpose here. All right. So what we want to do is we want to create a new playlist. All right. And this We already have it copied, and we can just paste it. All right. All right. So since that's the first example, and if we decide that we want to change the title and capitalize some of these, we can do that later. For now, we're just going to use this as the playlist, and we're going to check that because that's our basic function here, is to create this playlist. So it's going to be in this playlist, and we're going to check this one as well because it has the word Neumann in it, and we're using set theory, right? Because all these playlists are sets, and some of them are meta sets, and some of them are intra-meta sets, and some of them are inter-meta sets, and so on and so on. Okay, now, this is the tricky thing. We actually are going to include the video that you're watching right now that I'm currently in the act of constructing in the first piece that we put in the improvisatory encounters of the close reading experience. Therefore, we're going to have to space-time travel into the future and add in that particular journey, we're going to add what we're doing right now to the video that we're currently uploading, right? So in other words, this moment that you're experiencing in time right now has to be added to this material that we're currently uploading. So to do that, we're going to use the Russell set paradox, which is basically formulated by this idea, the set of all sets that are not members of themselves. Okay, so you can see how this is going to work, right? So this set here is a member of what we're doing, but what we're doing ultimately has to be put back into this set. So because it's not there, we can use the Russell paradox, and the Russell paradox is represented, the Russell paradox is represented in the playlist sets as, it's represented as deleted videos, right? So if you see deleted videos, tell me to stop. There it is. All right, so this is what we're going to use as part of the mechanics of our space-time travel voyage, which, just to remind my readers, the function of creating a space-time travel machine for the purposes of creating a playlist are so that we can get the material that we're currently recording into the video that we're uploading at this time. All right, now let's see if there are any other videos that this particular piece will correspond to. Duration Studies Department. I think this one. because we're using the Russell paradox to build a space-time travel machine. I'll add that one. Overtly political. We'll call it overtly political. That's good for now.